Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off because today I'll be reviewing and paging through Dungeons & Dragons, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. Is this tome chock full of essential information about all of dragonkind? Or does Fizban's Treasury fizzle? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, today I'll be reviewing Fizban's Treasury of Dragons in just a couple of minutes. But I do want to let you know that we're in the midst of the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular 2021. That means each and every day in October, you're going to find a brand new tabletop gaming related video at thegaminggang.com, as well as right here on the Gaming Gang channel. And it could be a review, such as this video, might be a first look, or if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, it's my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, where I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news, as well as first looks at tabletop games, airing at 7 p.m. Central. Also, each evening at 9 p.m. Central, I'll be hosting a spooky old-time radio show, which is destined to put a chill down your spine. So if you're in the mood for some Halloween fun, by all means, swing on over to thegaminggang.com. Also want to mention, stay tuned because I'll be announcing the winner of my copy of the alternate art edition of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. You got into the running by checking out my first look video. You might be a winner, so stay tuned. I will reveal that a little later in this video. All right, with all that said, let's swing on over because I am reviewing Dungeons & Dragons, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. The lead designer on this is James Wyatt. This 224-page hardcover is arriving in stores on October 26th. It does carry an MSRP of $49.95. Let's pop on over to the other camera because here I've got Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. A couple of things before we jump on in. First off, I want to mention the fine folks over at Wizards of the Coast were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts with you about this book. And these days, it's important that you know that. Also, I'm going to stay picture in picture up here in the corner. So that means I'm going to be cutting off the upper left portion of the book as we take a peek. I am not going to stop and look at every single page. I am not going to take a super deep dive into this book either. But what I want to do is I want to talk about what's in the book, what I like about it, what I may not be so keen about, as well as who is this book for. So without further ado, let's jump on in. So we've got a lot of credits here. So we've got a lot of designers. We've got a lot of illustrators as well. Quite a few people were behind the production of this book. I would read some of these, but I got to be honest, all it would be is 5 minutes of me mispronouncing a bunch of people's names. So we've got a bit of an introduction. We get a poem, Elegy for the First World. We get a breakdown of what's in this book, kind of a chapter by chapter kind of breakdown. Very, very simple presentation here, just a couple of sentences telling you, okay, this is what chapter 3 is, chapter 4, so on and so forth. So this book is supposedly narrated, hosted by Fizban, who is a kind of a doddering old mage, or is he, who was featured in the Dragonlance series. So I will point out that a lot of gamers, 5th edition is the only edition of Dungeons and Dragons they've ever played. So, as far as lore wise, a lot of them are not going to be familiar with Fizban because we have not seen any major Dragonlance productions or releases or source books yet from Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition. So we get some discussion of the different realms featured in Dungeons and Dragons, as well as the concept of the first world that Bahamut and Tiamat, the 2 dragon gods, created the material plane, talking about dragons in Forgotten Realms, which is pretty much the default setting for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Greyhawk, which we don't see a lot of info about Greyhawk. Dragonlance, as I mentioned, we haven't gotten any Dragonlance releases. And we also have Eberron, which there is a setting book for Eberron from Wizards of the Coast. So we're going to jump into some character options here, some player-facing options. One thing I will mention is the info on the back of this book points out that there's a treasure trove of player character options in this book. I gotta say, 20 pages or so, to me, is not a treasure trove of character options. This is kind of being presented by some outlets out there as a player-facing book. In my opinion, this is certainly not a player-facing book because 20 out of the 224 pages are devoted to the characters. To me, that doesn't make it a character-facing book. So we get some info about draconic races. We get some subclass options. But I have to point out, there's only 2 classes that are getting these options, and that is the monk and the ranger. We have some options for players being heroes of the dragon and dragon feats as well. But the vast majority of the character options here are the subclasses as well as playing as Dragonborn. And we've got a trio of different kinds of Dragonborn. We have the chromatic dragon. We have the gem dragons, because we have 7 new gem dragons that are making their first 5th edition appearance in this book. And then we also have metallic dragons. So we have the differences between those Dragonborn. Then we get into the options with the monk, Way of the Ascendant Dragon, as well as the Drake Warden for the ranger. And I have to say, strangely enough, I don't know what it is with the monk class. Since it was added into 1st edition, it's either completely gimped, so players don't want to play as monks, or it's made just so overpowered that dungeon masters don't want to allow monks in their campaigns. I have to say, these 2 subclasses are pretty powerful. So, especially the monk with the feats that the monk gets. Kind of, like I said, kind of OP. I do like both of them. I think the Drake Warden's kind of a cooler concept. But once again, these are the only 2 classes that are getting any sort of draconic subclass options. So we have the Heroes of the Dragon, which is just basically giving your character a tie to dragons, a particular dragon or group of dragons. And then we have Draconic Feats, which are essentially kind of gifts that the players receive. We get into Dragon Magic, and here we've got a few new spells. We got some magic items, although we have no images of the magic items. Boo. We have horde items. We're going to get into a concept of horde magic. So it's essentially magic items that are boosted by being part of a dragon's horde. So the longer it's part of the dragon's horde, the more powerful it becomes. But as it's taken away from the horde, then its powers diminish. I thought it was kind of odd. I mean, some people might really dig it. Others may not. And then we also get draconic gifts, which could be something that the player characters receive from a dragon, maybe as a gift, or from defeating a dragon, killing a dragon. So that's what this section is devoted to. So as I mentioned, we've got some magic items, but no images. That's always a bummer to me. I always like to see some images for the magic items. And going through some of the kind of gifts, I'm going to start skipping pages here. These are kind of cool. I thought these were pretty interesting. So we've got like scaled toughness. We have dragon blood. Then we get into dragons in place. So from here on out, so we're on page 31. From here on out, I consider the rest of this book to be Dungeon Master facing. Could players read it? Sure, of course. I mean, we've got a bestiary coming up, as well as discussion of the dragon layers and personalities of the various different dragons and things like that. But as a player, I would think I'd want to stay away from that because I want to enjoy the surprises of discovering different things about the various types of dragons or dragon-themed creatures. So we get dragons in place. We get a discussion about appearance, followers, encounters, focusing your campaign on dragons as well. A lot of good information in here. Once we moved into the Dungeon Master facing info, I personally think that the book picks up steam. I really do. Got a lot of different tables to create very unique dragons as well. We've got information about dragonborn, half dragons, gods and religions, and how they look at dragons, how they fit in, as well as religions that focus on dragons. As I mentioned, followers. So this section has a pretty good page count. We got some encounters talking about how to put together a encounter with dragons to make it really memorable. As I mentioned, we have the dragon campaigns talking about the different worlds. So we have Kryn, which is the home world that Dragonlance took place. I really do think that we are going to see a Dragonlance release in the next year or so, maybe sooner, but I do think that really is on the horizon. Then we're going to get into layers and hordes. Another section I really like because it's a discussion of the different types of dragons and the kind of layers that they have, how their hordes of treasure are going to differ, and some tables for creating the dragon horde and the treasures within it as well. And it's going to break down into, skip ahead, the Draconomicon, which all of that information prior to this, talking about the horde, the layer, and so on and so forth, is going to set you up for the Draconomicon. So it's going to discuss in detail each of the types of dragons and adventures focusing on them, their layers, creating unique personalities to them. There's tables for you to roll up a very unique dragon of that type. Something I actually like quite a bit in this, especially when we're talking about the layers, is the actions. So there's what's known as layer actions, which kind of bring to life the dragon's layer. So as an example, it's actions that the dungeon master can utilize as the dragon NPC to really bring that layer to life. And I'm going to actually use one of the dragon types as an example. Now, each of the dragon types get about 4 pages of information. Some get more. So the blue dragon gets a little more. Red dragon gets a little more. So let's take a look. So we've got the new gem dragons as well. So as an example, we're going to take a look here at the black dragons. So first section is how to create one. So personality traits, their ideals, spell casting, some adventure hooks. I don't know if I'd necessarily be rolling this randomly. I would probably pick from the hooks which one I like the best. What kind of connections do they have to other creatures? All dragons do not necessarily live alone or survive alone. Then we have kind of a few tables here that is going to differentiate their connections based on the age of the dragon. Then we get into the layers, and we're going to get a map of each layer, an example map of what you could be considering for the layer for that type of dragon. Definitely like this a lot. Very, very cool. So we were talking about here the layer actions. So as an example, it says, at your discretion, a legendary, adult, or ancient black dragon can use one or more of the following additional layer actions while in its lair. So black dragons tend to live in like mucky, gross, sort of kind of disgusting conditions. So one of the actions is filth burst. The dragon chooses a point on the ground it can see within 120 feet of it. A 20-foot radius, 20-foot high cylinder of watery filth centered on that point erupts from the ground until initiative count 20 on the next round. Talks about, okay, what does that do? Grasping muck. Tendrils of roiling muck extend from the dragon's lair to grasp up to 3 creatures of the dragon's choice that it can see within the lair. Targeted creature must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or be restrained until initiative count 20. Noxious gas. So each of these layers is going to have these special actions available to that dragon in it. Not the younger dragons, but only with the adult and ancient dragons. So we got through, we've got 20 of these dragons and their lairs, including our new gem dragons as well. This actually is my favorite part of the book. I really, really like all the information about the different dragons, creating very unique personalities for each of the dragons, having unique connections for the dragons as well, and how their layers are different, and how to bring those layers to life, as well as creating a dragon horde specifically for that type of dragon. Like this a lot. And really reading through this gets a Dungeon Master's juices flowing for really cool encounters with these dragons as well. And this actually takes up the majority of the page space in this book. So we're going to get to the bestiary. Here we go. So this is where we have the introduction of the gem dragons, as well as other dragon-related creatures and monsters. So we have the various gem dragons. So for an example, the amethyst dragon is actually the strongest of the gem dragons. And then, of course, we're going to get our stat blocks. We're going to get images as well. I will point out that not every entry in the bestiary is a home run. I think there's a few in here that kind of swing and a miss for me personally. Like the animated breath, I thought it's really odd. It's not something I would certainly be using at all in any of my games. But once again, it's a bestiary, so a lot of times everybody's opinion is going to be very, very different. There are some cool dragons in here, or dragon-related creatures as well. I like the dragon turtle. I think the dragon turtle is very cool. Once again, another creature I could easily envision basing an adventure around, especially one that's huge. It's mistaken for a small island. I think would be really wild. I think that would be pretty cool. There's also the Elder Brain Dragon. Let's jump to that. And I got to say, there's a lot in this bestiary. There are a lot of entries here. There we go. The Elder Brain Dragon is, in essence, what happens if a group of mind flayers capture a dragon. It's what my niece likes to refer to as ookie. I think that's pretty cool as well. So here's another example of some of the gem dragons. So we got the emerald dragon. Just jumping on through. The eye drake. This is one that I think is kind of a swing and a miss. It's kind of a beholder dragon mashup. I wasn't necessarily real thrilled. Ghost dragon. Moonstone dragons. So, as I mentioned, once again, there's a lot in this bestiary. There's going to be entries that you're going to be like, wow, I really dig that. And of course, there's going to be others like myself where you're like, I can't see utilizing that. And that's going to actually wrap up the book. And then we get creature lists at the end with the challenge ratings as well. So that is the 224 pages of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So who's the winner of my copy of the alternate art edition of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons? I selected this at random. You had until midnight yesterday, so people had a good about week and a half to get into the running. And the winner is Chris Knapp. Last name is spelled K-N-A-P-P. Chris, do me a favor. Make sure to send an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com from the email address that is associated with your YouTube account. Very, very important that you do that. And then I will get this out to you. I will make sure, if depending on when you get back to me, I will make sure that this ships out so you can have it on the day it comes out or the day after it comes out. So like the 26th, 27th of October. So as long as you get back to me right away, I will get this shipped out. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because I'm going to share my final thoughts about Fizban's Treasury of Dragons and give this a review score. I like Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I really do. There's some parts that I'm not keen on. For one, I don't like the fact that this is kind of being presented as a player-facing book when it's not. I, as a player, would not be too keen to shell out almost $50 on a source book that had all of about 20 pages devoted to player characters and then very, very niche information that for most players really isn't going to come into play. But as a Dungeon Master facing book, I think this is really, really well done. I really like the Draconomicon, where we've got the different layers, we've got the different tables to create a very unique dragon of the different types, personality, connections to other creatures. I love the layer actions to really bring those dragon layers to life, to make them unique, make them stand out, as well as the ability to create hoards of treasure that are kind of schemed toward that type of dragon. Definitely like that a lot. The bestiary is loaded with entries. Like I said, there's some I think are very cool. There are a few that I'm like, I wouldn't use them. But that's just me. Everybody's got a different opinion, especially when it comes to bestiaries as well. There's a lot of little notes and little asides that are supposed to be written by Fizban. I could have done without those. To be very honest with you, I already mentioned this. A great many people, 5th edition is their introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. They're not overly familiar with Dragonlance. That character probably doesn't mean much to them. And I get it. It's trying to add a little personality to the book. But to me, it's more miss than hit. But that's just a tiny little quibble. I think my biggest concern is that this book is being presented by some folks as being player-facing, and it's not player-facing. It just is not. But as a Dungeon Master-facing book, I definitely do recommend it, especially to those out there who want to focus a campaign or series of adventures around dragons or a particular type of dragon, I think the information that's within this tome is going to help bring those adventures to life very, very well. On a scale of 0 to 10, I give Dungeons and Dragons Fizban's Treasury of Dragons an 8 out of 10. Definitely recommended for dungeon masters, not for players. So this is not a book that you need to have multiple copies of around your table. Certainly do not. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you so much for watching. And until I see you next time, here's hoping you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, you're still here. Well, while you're kicking it, how about subscribing to the Gaming Gang channel? Or seeing the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch? Or finding out what YouTube recommends you check out here at my channel? And of course, don't forget, get your geek on at thegaminggang.com.